Joining me now is Republican Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. He's a founding member of the House Freedom Caucus, and he is supporting Roy Moore in the Senate race. And I believe, Congressman, you went down there and campaigned for him, correct?
I didn't go down, but we did have endorsed Judge Moore, and I think he's going to win tonight.
Let me ask you this. There's a lot of fear among some wings, the establishment wing of the party. Why do you believe they fear Roy Moore over Luther Strange? You could argue on paper, is there a lot of difference? What do you say?
Well, here's what I think's happening is the establishment has had a number of things over the I mean, think about this, Chuck. Dave Brat beats Eric Cantor a couple years ago. There's this group called the House Freedom Caucus, which gets formed here on Capitol Hill. A sitting speaker, John Boehner, steps down midterm. Donald Trump gets elected president. And tonight, if the polls are accurate, and I think they are, Judge Roy Moore is going to be the next senator from the great state of Alabama. So if that's not a message that people are sending to the establishment, I don't know what is. So let's focus on a simple task here. Let's do what we told the American people we were going to do, like actually repeal Obamacare, which unfortunately has not happened yet, like cut their taxes, like build the border security. Let's do what we said. It's not that difficult. And if we start doing that, you won't see this friction, I think, that we're seeing in Alabama. You'll just see us getting the things done the American people elected us to get done.
All right, you heard from John Boehner, and he would say, I don't have the votes to do everything you're asking me for. I can only get a certain amount. A certain way there, not quite there. Their votes just aren't there. There aren't enough Jim Jordans in the House. There are not enough Roy Moores in the Senate. What do you say to that argument that leadership makes?
And we've said this many times. We didn't even start the match. We didn't even start the game. All too often, we would forfeit and not even have the debate. So let's have the debate. I understand we may not get all we want all the time, but you can't forfeit before the referee even blows the whistle and starts the game. Let's get our best ideas out there. Let's have the debate and let's move. That's what we failed to do. That's what the American people saw us fail to do, and that's why they had the frustration that they've had, and we've seen the things we've witnessed over the last couple years.
All right, so if Roy Moore wins tonight, and it is double digits, sounds like you think it might be, our folks on the ground think it might be, and it's double digits, how would you like to see Mitch McConnell react to that? How would you like to see him recalibrate in reaction to a loss like that?
It's not about it's real simple. We make this job way too complicated. Our job is pretty basic. What did you tell the American people you were going to do when they elected you? Go do that. Did we tell them in 10, 14, and 16 that we were going to repeal Obamacare? Yes. Did we tell them last November that we were going to secure our southern border? Yes. Did we tell them we were going to cut their taxes and grow our economy? Yes. So let's just focus on those things. That shouldn't be establishment versus non-establishment. That should be real basic. What did we tell the American people we were going to accomplish? Let's go do that. Let's focus on that. And if we're doing that and making progress, it'll be fine. But if we're not, that's when they continue to be frustrated. And I think that's the case right now.
Well, let me go to health care. So are you satisfied, though, that, I mean, how many different ways do you have to try to do this where the consensus isn't there? This was a party line vote, and they couldn't get there. There's 3 that went public against it, which you and I both know means they were probably the brave 3. There's probably double that are glad that they didn't have to make that vote.
And I know how frustrated I am. So again, I know how frustrated the American people are, the folks back in the 4th District of Ohio. The real thing that bothers me is 6 Republican United States senators back in July voted against the exact same legislation. It was offered as an amendment, the exact same legislation they had supported 20 months ago and that they had campaigned on, that they had told the voters in their respective states that they were going to support. And then when it came time to do it, oh my goodness, they said, no, we can't do it now. You want to talk about what ticks voters off? That more than anything. Tell them one thing at election time, get in office, and you have the chance to do what you said, and you say, no, I can't do it now. So that's the big frustrating part. And that's why I think you probably see people in Alabama say, we think Roy Moore is going to do what he said. We think he's going to come here and fight and do the things he campaigned on. That's why I think he's going to win tonight.
Do you want more primary challenges? Do you think that this debate that needs to be had inside the party, even if it becomes a bit politically painful for the party in the general election come November?
I want us to do what the American people elect us to do. If that requires more primary challenges, so be it. I don't wish for that. I don't hope for that. I like my Senate colleagues. I like the folks I get to work with here in the House of Representatives. I just want us to focus on what do we tell the people we're going to do? Let's get it done. Let's take the debate. All too often, I feel like we're afraid to just have the debate, to go on the offense and say, here's what we believe, here's what we campaigned on, here's why we think it's going to help families across this country. Now let's just get it done. So that's what I hope happens.
Roy Moore said he was against Graham Cassidy.
Yeah, I would have. I think if that would have passed, I think you'd have seen the House go for that. I thought it was moving in the right direction, at least going to help us.
You would have accepted Graham Cassidy?
Well, you know what the position of the Freedom Caucus early on is we did not like the bill that was rolled out in the House. We made it better. Then we supported it, and we were willing to look at what the Senate sent back to us. At this late hour, I thought Graham Cassidy at least was going to give flexibility to states, at least begin to bring down premiums. And so we were leaning in the direction of supporting that. We thought it had good potential. So we'll see.
Let me ask you a larger philosophical question, because you were talking about, on one hand, you said, look, we made this promise to the American people on repeal and replace. We've got to fulfill it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that isn't the consensus in the country overall. That's the consensus inside one party. But it's not a consensus in the country overall. How much should that be taken into account when you legislate? You're in the majority, but how much should you take into account that there's a large chunk of the country that doesn't want these types of changes?
I think mostly what you should take into account is what you said. I think it's always a good thing to keep your word, to keep your promise. So what did you tell the voters? You established a contract with the voters in your district on Election Day when they elected you based on what you told them you were going to go fight for and accomplish on their behalf. That's first and foremost. But I'm willing to work with anybody. I mean, people find this hard to believe because I'm one of the more conservative guys in this town. But I used to work closely with Dennis Kucinich, and we're about as far apart as you can be. But particularly on civil liberty type issues, we found common ground. We're willing to work together. I'm willing to do that if I think it's good for the folks I get the privilege of representing and good for the country. So I think that should be a general attitude we have. But the most important thing is the contract you've established with your constituents, what they elected you to do.
Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio. Always a pleasure to have you on, sir. Thanks for coming on and sharing your views.
Chuck.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.